Oh, hello, everybody. Today we are talking to our community. What if you or your kids are going to a school that can't manage their money? What should you be doing? Come back on the other side with us to get those tools. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the South Star Classroom. That's Jubilee. That's David. Omar just left because his hair wasn't black enough, but he's going to come back with even better, silkier, nicer hair. We are once again joined by our new what do they call you on SNL when you before you become a cast member? It's like one of the players. And she is showing us up. She coming with new glasses, new hairdo. First off, she had a dog that was in the frame with us for a minute. She's just showing us up all over. But that's Jubilee. That is David, and a very, I'm in a brick wall. I'm about to educate these kids. I'm about to get it knocked out. He's very down to business. And then
he's a brick house.
And then
my
the brother down below us. Oh, so lucky to have him. You know why? Because Paris Fashion Week is about to start, but he chose to be here with us, ladies and gentlemen. Our resident model, Omar, is in the building. How you all doing today? Let's start with you, David. How you been, man? What's new?
What's new? Let's see. It finally stopped raining in California, so we've been thawing out for like the last 3 days. It started raining somewhere around, like a couple of days after Christmas, and it literally has not stopped. So it's good to see the blue sky out there. My wife is out of town this weekend. She's doing a girls' weekend trip up in Palm Springs. She sent me a photo of the car and the radio panel as she was driving, and she was listening to one of my old DJ mixes. And today is International DJ Day, so that was kind of special. I'm like, yeah, I'm your husband, and I'm a DJ, and today is International DJ Day. So salute to all the great disc jockeys out there in the world.
Well, welcome. Let's get Omar before he disappears on us again, because Fashion Week. I ain't gonna lie, I love y'all, but I'd rather be in Paris as well, sitting next to the Louis Vuitton, people, bro. How you doing, O? And thank you for being with us.
Man, in honor of French Fashion Week, I'm wearing only the finest of Canadian garbs. That's right. Shout out to the Roots, who need to start sponsoring us. Yeah, the sweaters, the pants, it's the Roots. Although I do have Italian shoes on right now, but no one can see them. Good, man. It's January is a crazy ass time, man. It's audits, it's financials, it's all. I'm sure David and you all remember those times. It's just like you don't want to do anything over the holidays, so then this financial organizations, everyone's like, let's just cram everything into January. So there's 1,400 different elements of surprise that are coming at us, but we're navigating it okay. Texas is crazy, so I'm assuming that you all are either following one set of Texas news or the other. One happens to be from El Paso, and that's the massive immigration that you continue to see on the daily basis. I am choosing to handle that in they are here and we're going to take care of them. So I'm headed down to Sacred Heart to give a bunch of clothes and resources to the folks that are coming in and give them a lot of love. Border Patrol not going to give them as much love as, say, the church is. So kudos to the church on this one. I usually don't give kudos to the church, but they got my respect on this one in El Paso. Or if y'all have been following social media, you saw someone from El Paso who they would say made us proud. I would say did not, in talking about Cowboys football, accidentally dropping the F-bomb on the local news. everyone watching this fool talk about how the Dallas Cowboys are the.
Oh, and we lost them. See, that was somebody,
Back to
a
fashion.
49er fan did that. It wasn't me. I'm not a Niner fan, but we will get him back. And I didn't know any of that Texas news at all. But Texans
Me neither.
feel like everybody gets their news, so I love it. But Jubilee, how are you? Are you in the beautiful state of New York? Where are you at right now?
I am in Maryland. So
Maryland, okay.
And the weather, I'm with Dave. He talked about seeing the blue skies because it was kind of gloomy for a little bit. Oh my God, look, Omar's back. It's a miracle. So I've just been enjoying the spring weather. And that's what I'm calling it, because I wasn't necessarily ready for winter anyway, even though I have my faithful New York like cover from head to toe coat that I don't want to wear. So that's what I've been doing. I've just been flowing. This is my pooch who wants to be by me during today's show. She doesn't want to stay down there. So yeah, she is. I took her to get groomed today. She's got the pink bow. Life is great. Life is great. That was my day.
And before I go, we want to bring Omar back. It was not me that got you out of here. It was some Niner fan somewhere. I'm not a Niner fan, buddy, but you were talking about.
No, man, it was Jerry Jones, because I started talking smack about them Cowboys. Jerry Jones and his big brother was like, man, I'm not having this man talk that smack about this Cowboys fan, but I'm talking smack about the Cowboys fan, talking about 100. Listen, man, look, you can root who you want for, and good luck to the Cowboys going against arguably one of the very best.
See, there you go. That's what I'm talking about the Cowboys. I don't know what it is.
Jones, the ghost of Tom Landry, God's team.
Listen, bro.
Yeah.
You better leave them Cowboys alone. Jerry Jones reach knows no bounds. I'm doing well though. I'm here. You know, they're not gonna let him back in if you're talking about the Cowboys. I would say it's been a week, but I'm happy to be with my people. It is definitely a wine week. And I'm very, yes, Jubilee, that seemed to make you very happy. You are more than welcome to have wine with us on Friday.
Yes, I got tea, but wine is also a very close second.
We're gonna do a segment for you around wine, so you can just have a good time. But today, what we're talking about, there's a few things that's happening. So we've covered this story before, and I promise you it won't just be Oakland or California centric, but we have to build the context. I'll start off, and David will actually give us more context. Oakland has been in a state, the district of the school district of Oakland has been in a state of just shaky financial ground, to the point where the district went into receivership and had to be bailed out by the state. And with that bailout came some stipulations. There's still an agent from the state that is embedded inside the district to help watch fiscal and financial flags. And part of the plan to right size the district, because there's 80 plus schools in Oakland, but the population is dwindling. So a lot of schools are halfway full, quarter full. Like it's really, really bad with enrollment. And of this plan that started even when I was in the district, when David was still working around in Oakland, was that we have to close X amount of schools. And there's never any good PR around having to close schools, especially if those schools end up being Black schools, brown schools, which I completely understand. And so what has happened is in this last election cycle, there were platforms that people ran on, and it was to save these schools and to not let these schools close. Well, those people won, and they just rescinded the order that was going to close schools and help right size the district. Now, there were financial incentives for trying to right size. There were things that were coming down the pike. And also, we have a county board that helps oversee the district, and we also have the state. And the county and the state are not fully, they're not delighted by these plans to not go through with what needs to, what they felt needs to happen. And there's been some fallout, but the agent that is embedded inside the district does have veto power if they do not see a viable plan that would allow the district to run in the black. So team and David, actually first David, can you just give the lay person out there just a little bit more understanding about exactly what's happening, What are the politics at play here? And then we'll dive into the impact on students.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. So to start out with, I think the important thing for us to understand and for our listeners to understand is that public schools and public school districts and public charter schools they're run differently across 50 states, but essentially they are run the same. Districts get and charter schools get revenue from different entities based on how many students you enroll, and also in some cases the kinds of students you enroll. So you have X number of students in your district or in your local education agency, and then you can predict and forecast the revenues that you can anticipate over the next several years. That's how it's run. It's still essentially run like that. People like to think of education as, it's a government service, but at the end of the day, it's a business, and they need to be run financially similar to how private businesses are run, nonprofit businesses are run. You have a budget, and your goal is to live within or close to your means. Today, we're talking about Oakland Unified School District. Over the last 20 years, has had a significant decline in enrollment, almost upwards of 15 to 20,000 students, I think. Might be a little higher or maybe a little bit lower, and for a number of different reasons. The demographics are changing. People are moving out of Oakland. The people that are moving in are younger and maybe don't have kids. There's been a growth in the private school attendance, and there's been a growth in the public charter school enrollment in Oakland. So in Oakland, if you see 4 kids walking down the street, 2 of them attend a district school, 1 attends a charter, and 1 attends a private school. That's generally how the enrollment is laid out. And the issue that we're going to talk about today is an issue where the district has continuously failed to do what all businesses should do when your revenue decreases. When your revenue decreases, you have to realign your assets, right? And they haven't done that. And so what we have is a situation where the district is running X number of schools when they should probably be actually running, generally 20 schools fewer than they have now to align with what the district norm is in California. And by closing those 20 schools, they were able to take those resources and disperse them across the existing schools that they still have in their portfolio. And then those schools end up generating more revenue from the district. And then as a result, they're able to hire more staff. They're able to offer additional types of enrichment programming, et cetera, et cetera. So that's essentially where things are right now. And like Charles said earlier, the school district, the school board has just reversed a decision to close, I think, 5 or 7 schools next year. And so the district is going to have some troubled times ahead.
Yeah, so it's a lot, and and like I said, listen, I get it. God bless, right? I'm actually hoping that they are able to. I'm hoping that we're able to get this right in Oakland. I'm hoping that this isn't too disruptive and it isn't just for political or whatnot. I actually think that there are people that really. I think there's 2 types of people that's on the side of this. And you can bring O in, David. I think one of those people is somebody that really earnestly is look, closing these schools is bad. It's not a good look. We shouldn't be closing these schools for reasons X, Y, and Z. I think that there's another type of person that is a little bit more politically savvy, knows what the numbers are, knows that it's not a sufficient model, but knows that they can use this as a stepping stone to get somewhere else politically. And as somebody who's been in Oakland, who's seen a piece of those books, that's seen, it is we depend in Oakland on this influx of one-time like grants. So let me tell you, as somebody who's worked in the district, what that means. We might get a billionaire or organization or corporation to infuse and say, here's this money, but this is one-time money. It is it's not money that's gonna that you can get from ADA. It's not money that's gonna be over the years. And what'll happen is it'll get you and keep you afloat for that year, but it gives you just enough time to kick the can down a little bit longer, and we're back in this place. This has been an issue since 2003. It's 2023. Yep. This is not an exaggeration. What we're talking about is at least a 20-year issue, and I'm being conservative and only counting from when Oakland officially went into receivership. So, you know, I just wanted to offer some context. Are there any questions from our two non-Oakland people, though? Because I know this can be kind of mucky, but I want to make sure that you all ask what you need to ask, so you know we can really dive in, and the crowd can follow as well.
I got one question. What about the children? I'm about to sing the song, but I'm trying to refrain. Right.
Yeah.
You know how I feel just about things being as student-centered as possible, and my wondering is their voice a part of this process at all? And I understand that there are multiple frames that are a part of the decision making, right? There's the political, there's the fiscal, and I get it. But is there any sort of central focus on what will or how will a closure benefit or harm the children, right? Like on either side, what are the pros and cons for the children? Because I'm just like, I wonder if that might help to inform a better decision. Maybe it could be something that's in the middle if the children were the central focus, you know, and what was informing the decision making rather than money.
I definitely have an answer, but David, do you want to go first? I can go after if you have something.
I would say yes, absolutely. I think there's a balance between running a school district and running the finances of a school district, and being the person that is kind of responsible for that, and saying like, oh, this is like the appropriate financial move for the district. However, you're not running a business. You are running a business that is in the business of educating real human beings, and we're talking about children. And so I think in this case, my answer to you, Jubilee, would be no. They didn't. It was rushed. This particular round was rushed, and OUSD as a school district has a pretty bad track record of engaging young people in decisions in and around, so many things that revolve around schools, especially school closures, which is unfortunate.
I would chime in and add, I don't think there aren't very many young people that if you ask them if they want to see a school closed, that's going to say, yes, I want to see a school closed. I think so. I understand that. And that's where my work centers. My work centers around talking to young people, making sure they're informed on these things or whatnot. There's also something, I'm going to just be honest about this and direct, and I don't know if it might not come out the right way, but I'm gonna be very honest. There need to be adults that are in place that do the things fiscally that are responsible, so you can make sure that young people are getting the education that they deserve and is not interrupted, and that is not that they have the resources and everything that needs to happen. So I say that to say, Jubilee, we have known for over 2 decades that we have way too many schools that hold way too many students, and we don't have the actual students. That just is always going to be bleeding the district. And people will say, well, what about central office? That's close to a central office. And when people are not aware of what that means, what they mean is, hey, let's make sure that superintendent salaries and all these people that get paid at the district office, get these cuts. And you can do that. It's not going to be enough money. But when you say we're going to just take it out of central, what you're taking out of it is enrichment programs. You're taking out people that going onto that school campus to offer those different resources that students need. And what the idea was that if we actually are able to consolidate schools, get enough kids into one school where every seat is filled, we can actually then concentrate those resources there. But like I said, the people that ran to make sure that no schools closed, I'm very interested, and I'm hoping, and I'm not even being snarky. I really do hope that they have a plan, like a sustainable plan that will allow for the education of kids to happen, no more disruptions that don't need to happen, and an actual concentration of these resources for these young people. So it looks like I'm frozen, but hopefully you all can still hear me.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Let me add a little bit more color here for our listeners and for Omar and for Jubilee. So thank you, Jamoke Hinton, for joining us. 3-time OUSD school board member. So she understands what's happening here. Money follows the children. So I think most of us have worked in both district and charter schools. We understand that if you work at a charter school, the revenue that comes in is based on enrollment, and you have to create a school environment that is welcoming, that people want to be in. You don't get automatic enrollment based on addresses for the most part. And so is everybody, there you go. Okay. All right. And so one of the issues, the core issues with what's happening in Oakland, California is in general, you are assigned to a school by your address. So if you live across the street from Crocker Elementary, that's where you go, or Burkhalter, that's where you go. But the district at some point started offering open enrollment, like school choice, so you could petition to attend another school. And so many families ended up bypassing their local neighborhood schools to try and get into a school that they perceived as being better for their child. Thus, now you have schools that are under enrolled based on the loosening of restrictions around school enrollment and how students are enrolled in schools. So it's like you kind of crack open the can a little bit of the Pandora's box of school choice, and there are real life consequences because people then have some ability to choose. And so that too has created schools that are probably built to serve upwards of 800 students with, say, like 150 kids in there. That's not sustainable. I mean, regardless of how you want to play it. And then a lot of these schools too, at the same time, that are under enrolled or under resourced, have very poor academic outcomes. And so it's kind of this exponential kind of whirlwind that they find themselves in. And so Charles back.
So,
all right, here we go.
I hope
I'm back. We'll see.
I do have several questions.
Yeah.
And, just to stir the pot of controversy, for fun's sake, stir the pot of controversy. I'm on the phone now, so I won't get booted off. I don't know what's going on with it.
And I don't know if it's just me. You got a little bit of static, but I think you should be good. Let's see.
He's good. We can hear him.
Oh, do
yeah.
I can fix
we can hear you.
the audio in a second. Okay. I'll fix the audio in a second. I think my first question is, first, where is the longitudinal plan from Oakland ISD in examining the demographic shifts and getting in front of these conversations? Because, look, El Paso has had the similar situation as Oakland ISD. A bunch of schools, in fact, near our flagship campus in Sigma Novadio, because families aren't really moving into that area anymore. The east side of El Paso is where everybody is at. So you have a massive demographic shift outside of that area, and schools are closing. So of course schools start closing and they're handled inappropriately, and they're like, hey, sorry, you're going to be bused to this other school, as opposed to having a concrete plan, which is, hey, there's a lowering demographic here. What we're going to do is make this brand new, amazing school. We're going to close these 4 down, but everyone's going to come into this place and it's going to be exceptional, and we're going to have the finest of resources. And what it is instead of a closure, which is essentially a negative, you're creating a positive. So I'm kind of, look, EPISD screwed this one up and they handled it inappropriately. I'm assuming Oakland did the same thing, but I guess my question for Oakland is, where was their demographic information and their longitudinal thinking in terms of how to handle this appropriately? And I think Jamoke's on the call, so I'd love to hear from her and from you, David, because I got to tell you, that's a straight up disorganization. And if
Yep.
people are like, Omar, these are the finances, this is what you got to do. I'm like, don't preach to me about that. I run a school district myself. I look at the longitudinal data when I'm making decisions about growth and everything else. So where were you guys on this one? I think that's question number one. I think question number two, and David, I thought you brought up a really fascinating result, is did they step on their own sword by creating an open district, which is a great idea, shoot themselves in the foot by then creating the very problem that we're discussing today.
Yep.
The board did no research. They were gaslight. That's what Jamoki said.
Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, you give people a little bit of choice, and then you have to live with the results, right? It's kind of part of the democratic process. And so when this like freedom was granted, a lot of the neighborhood schools in the heartlands, the flatlands of Oakland, their enrollment dropped, and parents, a lot of parents that had the means of transportation and knew what to look for started attending and enrolling in schools up in the hills in Oakland, which are perceived to be better. But I think going back to your earlier point, and I'll do this quickly, I'd love to hear from the rest of you, is there was no plan by the board. The way that politics gets involved here, and this is kind of like a universal lesson. There's so much tension around enrollment in Oakland and charter school politics. The district kind of exists, and they do some planning, but they only look at their own kind of demographic and their own data, when in reality, they only enroll 50% of the children in Oakland. And so if you're going to plan for like demographic shifts and where people are moving to, and where are you going to need new schools, you have to take into consideration 100% of the community. However, the politics in Oakland were so sour against public charter schools, it was very difficult to get any kind of effort organized that would look at a much more comprehensive data set that included young people that attend private schools and young people that attend charter schools. That's how wacko it was, and still is. So, yeah.
I don't want to get off on a rant here, David, but just a quick rant because it's a show and it's supposed to be entertaining. Man, this is the exact kind of BS that I am so sick and tired of, where everyone blaming charter schools, we're the reckoning, and it's like y'all spend so much time talking about us that you're not minding your own house. And instead of asking the right question, which is how do we improve our situation for students and for kids, you're taking the easy route out, some lazy ass stuff, and saying, how do we blame them for our problems? I just got to unload that one. Like Doc unloads sometimes, that's my unload. I may have one more, but I'm going to keep it to that one more, just dishing it out real style.
And just for the record, if you have some headphones, man, try to add them. You still got the static going. We can hear you, but we got to make sure that we get that part taken care of. I want to make sure, Jubilee, this is one of the moments where you're gonna have to put the elbows out and box your way in. I would just say, to answer that though, man, I'll just say a few different things to address that, and David will have a much better answer than I will. Okay, but I want to just lay some facts out there. We are a place that is led by ideology. It is the idea of something as opposed to like actually having to execute it. And I think that a lot of people did have really good intentions. I think that's why Jamoke wrote that a lot of people were gaslit. A lot of people were told that this injustice was happening. This is what was going on, and this is why. The other thing that I would add to that, though, is let me just let you know that we live in a land of I'll just say Hippocrates. I won't call anybody a hypocrite. I'll say Hippocrates. In the sense of, we'll say we want parents to have choices and communities to have choices. So then there's a one app that is created. A one app makes it easier for parents to choose the school that they want to go to. Well, parents were choosing charter schools in such high volume that the board said, we got to get rid of this one app because it is hurting competition. It is. But wait a second. I thought that you said that you valued these parents' voices and their choices. Well, they don't know any better. Right? Then Jamoke and I led a lot of these conversations in places like Lafayette, in places, in certain schools, where we showed the data. Hey, let's just say your school can hold 600 people. You are on slate to have 100 people registered next year. It's going to be a problem. And we told people that. You know what happened? People would publicly claim their outrage and decry charter schools, but would find Jamoke and I privately and asked if we can get their kids in KIPP. Every single time. It always happened. Third, I would just say this. I don't care what type of school your kids go to. I got smoke with every type of school because Black kids still can't read at the rate that we should be able to read, whether it's private, charter, traditional, or whatever. But I do believe in people's ability to choose. And so what we have right now is a situation where a lot of people don't have a lot of data, but there's a high run of emotion. This is the home of the Black Panthers, y'all. This is the place of social justice. This is where I went to the same elementary school that Huey P. Newton went to. So there is this thing around when there's an injustice being done, we have to fix it. But no one is holding these plans up to scrutiny. No one is holding these plans up and if it fails, the only people that get hurt are these parents and students that have been made to believe certain things. These politicians will have moved on. They will have built their platform and took their step up or took their step out. These administrators are charter, traditional, and private school administrators go between all the industries anyway. Like, we all know each other. We all work together. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that one of the things that I want for my people, and why I'm happy about the second half of this, is what did we tell our parents and community leaders as members of cities like this where there is just not good financial management? What options do you have? What can you do? How can you make sure your kid or your neighbor's kid is getting what they deserve? And that's the part of the conversation that I'm interested in, because emotions are involved, logic is running thin, and scrutiny is non-existent. And so I think that if you want your kid, especially if your kid looks like me and grows up in the places that I grew up in that city, you need to have plans B, C, and D ready to go. And David, like I said, Jubilee, jump on in there. But I just that's I hope Omar got to capture something. I know he's having some technical issues, but and I'm gonna blame StreamYard on this because we both having issues and I don't have issues. I'm hard.
No, I got it all. I don't know what's going on. But
it's okay, man. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But
open this up to Jamoke too.
Don't worry about it. But hopefully, oh, go ahead.
I my audio, by the way.
Your audio still scratchy.
Better?
No.
Damn. All right, I'm gonna have to figure this out.
No, it's not.
It's all good. Really quick. Before I fix my audio, you worked in both. You've been in the sector. You've been in traditionals and charters and everything else. Like, how are you interpreting this? Is this like kicking this shit down, the can down? Is this accepting of responsibility? Or is this just that we're not finding the right people for these positions and they're making terrible decisions? Or is this a political decision?
Well, David and Jubilee.
I just feel like
go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it involves zero strategy. I think it sounds like it's very reactive and not responsive. So yeah, I was talking out, I was taking my notes, but one is do the research, right? Our children deserve that. Our families deserve that. What are we talking about? That we're making decisions for entire school districts without data. And Oakland's not the first place that this has happened, right? Like, we've done this in New York. Okay, like the school that I was assistant principal of, this is what we did. We had a community school, right? And the belief that if you live in this community, you deserve to have a high quality school, period. What's going on here? So if the families are leaving, right? Because we were a public, a district school, but we never struggled with under enrollment. Did some of our students leave and go to, local charter schools when it became more condensed and more like populated with charter schools? Yes, but we also had, new students, new families moving into the community. And where were they zoned to? They were zoned to our school. And our commitment was, we're going to make this the best school as best as we can in this community because you deserve it. School choice should be, an option, but not because you don't have good food at home. You should have good food at home. Period. Right. So, so ask the families. This is me giving feedback, but also reflecting on, why are they leaving? ask the families, like, why are you leaving? Do a survey, gather the data so that you know why these transitions are happening, right? And then use that to figure out, okay, so how do we cultivate, kind of like to Omar's earlier point, how do we cultivate a community school that has these things? You should not have to go and look somewhere else in another community, take a bus, wake up 45 minutes to an hour earlier just to make it to school so that you can have a good STEM program or so that you can have a good ELA course. Like, what are we talking about? And it just doesn't sound like it's lack of funding. Now it is, right? But at one point it seems to be that there was loads of just mismanagement over a long period of time. Right. So, I mean, that's my position. Families deserve high quality schools in their community. And it should have never, ever, ever been okay for us to say, oh, we're going to give you school choice as an antidote for poor schools. Right. What? Fix the freaking schools in the community. Figure out how to get, high quality talent in there. Give these kids in these communities what they're leaving the community to go get. Why can't our children in these communities have access to high quality education? That was to me, that's the first ridiculous thing that was done, right? In any of our communities, right? I've only worked in urban communities, right? With mostly Black kids, 98, 99% Black students, So I just think that's a huge issue that we, instead of, fixing it, we kind of treat it like a fast food restaurant. Oh, you don't like McDonald's? Okay, well, there's Wendy's, there's Popeyes, there's Chick-fil-A. No, make your stuff better here. So in terms of my kind of last thoughts, I'll share, like, I know earlier you said you hope that they are able to enact this like new plan, or that they really have a sustainable plan. And my addition to that is I hope they have a sustainable plan, and they have accountability, and they have effective governance to enact said plan. Because it sounds like people were planning, maybe haphazardly, but it doesn't sound like there was anybody there to hold them accountable for the plan, right? Or any governance that was going to make sure that, things are running correctly and smoothly, and that the funds are being managed. And lastly, Charles, this is a plug for your book, right? I think this outcome would be a bit different if families had more information and they have more agency in terms of like knowing what to ask for, what to look for, right? No, we don't want our school to close, but here's what we do. We want the school to stay open, and we want some dope ass educators. We want some teachers who, we want the talent to come in our community and teach our babies. We want amazing instruction during the day. We want extracurricular activities. We want scholarships. We want and put the ball in the parents' court to be able to create and cultivate the kind of school community that they would like to see. So that's my take.
That was probably the most common sense response to any question yet on this podcast. You broke it down there. I love the point around school choice and how you equated it to like everyone should have good food, right? And the basic needs taken care of. And so, yeah, I mean, I've said that in different ways where like every neighborhood should have a high quality school where students can go to. And then if you want to introduce something like choice, school choice should not be, for districts to keep students within the district as a financial motive. School choice should not be kind of like a Lord of the Flies situation where everybody's fending for themselves. School choice should be, I have a good school down the street, but, we want to try the district Montessori school, or we want to try the district engineering school, or we want to try the district or the charter school that has a military focus, or whatever it is, art school. School choice should be, what do they say? Like an add-on, as opposed to just trying to get your basic needs met in terms of education. So I'm with you on that.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, no, I like I said, and I think, my conversation now switches to, I mean, Oakland is just like one example in a larger, it's a microcosm in a larger set of issues. And I think Jubilee touched on a lot of the things that I think I agree with. I mean, one of my things just centers around an informed populace, an informed base of parents. And I think there's so much. Listen, I understand where the emotions come from. I understand why people fight for crumbs. When you've had nothing, when you have had nothing for so long, it don't matter if they crumbs, they your crumbs. So it don't matter how well or poorly McClymonds High School is doing, because my grandfather and great-grandfather went to McClymonds. And so I need that to be there. And I think that I get that and I understand that because it's tied to dignity. And as long as things have to be tied to dignity, there's an emotional play there that I think a lot of people play off of. I think one, though, is like, as a parent or leader, you have to know your kids' strengths and their weaknesses. And what I mean by that is, look, this is the situation where that my kid is going to this type of school. Here's where my kid is excelling. Here's where my kid is deficient. And you need to use these districts or these schools like they use you and your child. Let me explain. You can feel how you want to feel about OUSD. But if you play basketball or football, Oakland being as small as it is, produces so many professional athletes per capita. Like, I mean, it competes with New York, Chicago, and LA, and it's a minuscule size compared to those places, right? So it's like, look, I'm putting my kid here for this, but I'm making sure they go into Sylvan. I'm making sure they at the boys club. I'm making sure they got a mentor. I'm making sure these other deficiencies are there. We have to be strategic with the things that we want. And I'm not trying to be mean. And I know what I should say. I know what should be true. There should be quality everywhere. But if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. And it's not the reality. And I'm trying to prepare my people for the reality that many of us will face. Is your schools ain't going to be up to par and worthy of you. And for some way and somehow and some reason, we end up sympathizing more with the people that get paychecks, that got multiple degrees, than we do with the families and the students that's trying to just get out of their community or trying to be something positive and be what they need to be. Yep. I think, too, you still got to trust your gut, and you got to start looking at emotionless data and emotionless outcome. And you got to make the best decision for you and your people. And sometimes it's going to go against the grain. But I would always just say, trust your gut in. Why is this white woman coming down from the hill where her kids go to a traditional public school that competes for blue ribbons against private schools, but it's telling me I need to stay in this decrepit ass school because it's a neighborhood school and I owe it to the system? Black people, brown people, poor people, you don't owe that system a damn thing. That's not how this works. The same way the stoplight don't owe you nothing. Its job is to go red, yellow, and green and to make sure ain't no car accidents. If it breaks and there's a lot of car accidents, we get rid of it. And I think that with your kids, you have to be, just that on top of it. I'm going to stop there, but I've dealt with this personally as a student that went to these schools, professionally as somebody who's worked in this district trying to talk to these people at these schools, and as somebody politically that has seen people that I knew the truth. I know they knew the truth because we talked about the truth, and will get up there and lie in your face to make a political point so they can step to the next thing that they need to step to. And that's where that emotionality just came from me. So I'm going to be done right there, but those are my things for my community.
I got 3 quick main points. One.
Oh, you sound good. Let's give you the full screen.
Man. I don't need the full thing, man. I'm just happy to be here. Listen, one, if you heard Jubilee and what she said and how eloquent and how perfect that was, why aren't you hiring the South Star Classroom? What a perfect plug, not just for our book, but essentially, and for, Doc's book. That is a plug for the South Star Classroom. We solve problems. And I think that what I'm seeing here in this entire Oakland scenario is, and I'm going to ask a controversial question, and I want our audience to think about this, is, are politically elected boards the best way to govern a school system? You think that the democratic system works, and look, I'm all for democracy and I am all for representation, but when people's motivations are politically guided, it's about themselves and not about the kids and not about the community, and they're not being held accountable, and there's a lack of accountability there, you're seeing results like this. And this is yet another example of a disastrous situation that we've seen repeated in several cities by democratically elected boards. Do not get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I am not for Trump. I am not for fascism. I am not for the disintegration of the Constitution. The exact opposite. What I am for is finding a different path for our boards, whether they be democratically elected or not, to where their motivations are guided really by the kids. Can we incentivize the motivation so that when kids are getting fantastic results and people are working through their heart to make sure that kids are getting the food that they deserve, that maybe that is how they, either get onto these boards or get elected. But it sure as shit explains what the South Star Classroom is here to do.
Yeah.
So hire us.
Hey,
Number
Omar,
two-
real quick, before you go on, I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Daniel Zatazua, who's in the comments watching the show. He is a longtime colleague and friend of mine, going back in the day to our early years of working together at Oakland Unity High School. So thank you, Mr. Zatazua. It's great to see you here. Let's connect.
And listen, before we continue, Omar, don't lose your thought, okay? Jot it down if you need to. I just want to just say, while we're talking about people's emotions and we're talking about things running high and all that stuff, we got some help for you, because this stuff will make your blood boil, and we can't have your blood boiling in 2023. So we'll be back in about 20 seconds.
Do you feel overwhelmed with an invincible feeling of sadness? At Meditative Bliss, we will help you overcome the inexplicable stress you get from the boring routine chores and attain the solace and inner peace your soul has been yearning for. This innovative medium will be a source of the most peaceful and relaxing free music. So get ready to experience a euphoric treat for your spirit. Visit us on YouTube and Spotify anytime. Meditative Bliss. Serene your soul.
There you go.
All right on.
Omar's going to show us all how to meditate after this episode. Go ahead, brother.
Man, I'm all about, man. I can take us through a guided meditation. If y'all want, I don't know if that's the kind of show that we want to have. Maybe we could start out next time with a guided meditation and clear our thoughts and clear our head, unite with the consciousness and so forth. I got you, man. I got you. So shout out to Meditative Bliss, our sponsors this week. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do need to take a step out and have a moment for yourself, consider Meditative Bliss. And consider realizing that, emotions can run high, and that's okay. But how we react to those emotions is the most important thing. And I think that's my second point is we can get angry and upset, but where are we going to take action? And I think that's really what Doc was saying, is that unless you understand that, as he always says, we out here on our own, and you're out there taking action, out there holding these folks accountable. Listen, like, the one advantage of all these political hacks that are in office is that they're motivated by their own greed of political reelection and by their own greed of ultimately getting to a higher purpose. There are those wonderful and far and few in-betweens who we adore, like Jamoke, who are in it to win it for the kids. And I adore those people. And whether you're in political office or not, if you're guided by heartfelt intentions of working towards improve the lives of others, you will always have my utmost respect. If you're working towards your own selfish motivations, I will burn you down. And I can't wait to do that. I am Samuel L. Jackson. I will bring my vengeance upon thee. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's not that difficult. That's a letter. That's a phone call. And it's about having your facts and data set up to be like, I'm a constituent. I've got 75 people that agree with me on this one. And I see you just won your election by 200 people. I'm going to organize around this one issue and ensure that you don't get elected until you come up and have a conversation with us and our organization about corrective measures you're going to take in the next session. There's no curse words. There's no anger. What there is facts and power. And that is really ultimately how we hold a lot of these folks in power to accountability. But that is how we should hold. There should be a lesson on how we hold all leaders to accountability. And Doc is right. If it's broke, go and fix it. And sometimes the way of fixing it is organizing and exercising your power. Because I think, guys, the ultimate thing that I'm realizing from this is that, like, this is just deja vu, man. This shit happened in El Paso. This shit happened in Austin. This thing happened in New York. This thing happened in Oakland. This happened in San Francisco. Like, it's just the same old story over and over again. And I don't understand how these communities just can't learn from the mistake and figure out some really good solutions. And you know why? I don't think they give a shit. And because there's no
happen in Oakland again,
and
too.
no ramifications, it's going to continue to happen because there's no pushback. And I think that's ultimately, but here is pushback really quickly. And it's my last comment. And this is what Oakland and every other school district should realize. Thank you. Your mistakes are my earnings. As a result of your poorly run decisions in the charter community, in the private community, we keep getting students. So, I mean, in that respect, keep making your bad decisions. But as a public educator, I'm with Jubilee 1,000%. I want every kid to have an excellent school that's within the distance of their home, getting the opportunities that they damn deserve, because that's what's up. And that's the way that we should be running this country. So that's my last sentiment on the subject, man. We're already at closing time. It's Chumbawamba, man.
It's definitely time to go into final thoughts. But Jubilee, we saw that you had a comment, so definitely wanted you to make your comment. You can tag in your final thought with that as well, if you like.
Sure. I mean, while Omar was speaking, I was thinking about poverty. It was like, you know, it sounds good, but when you add poverty, when you add low socioeconomic status, right, that changes the game, because it's like, how many things am I supposed to be focusing on and fighting for? Right now, I'm fighting to eat, provide food, you know, shelter for my children. I'm fighting to keep my job. I got 2 jobs, right? Or I'm a single parent, right? Or I have a child that may have, you know, special needs. I'm already doing all of that. And then I got to go fight on the front lines, you know, to get the school system to do what they're supposed to do, right? So I think, you know, there's a huge need, right? Again, back to, you know, Charles's like book for like the agency piece, but also like, we need allies, right? You need allies. You need allies on every level, because it's a hard fight. The system is set up against, you know, people of color, right? And usually the people that are in positions of power are not people of color, right? Or that have the school or the children's best interest at heart. So we need allies. We need to know how to galvanize, how to develop allies, and how to galvanize those relationships to now tip the system over. Right. And I know that doesn't happen like overnight. But in addition to thinking about what's going to happen to the school, or district, if it's going to stay open or closed, I think we also would need to be thinking about how we're going to develop these relationships too. And my closing statement is disempower the monster. The system's a monster. Just think, right? You said this has been going on since 2003. And to Omar's point, this has happened in school districts across the nation, that when it comes to school, people look at it as this big ticket item, right? Whether you're on the, you know, the leadership side, whether you're the school district side, whether you're the consultant side or the small business side, everybody's getting paid, you know, from school districts who are not doing the one job that they're supposed to be doing, like that stoplight, which is educating students and doing it well, right? Because this is our future. So I feel like we need to figure out ways to disempower the monster. The monster is all the people that come together that say, we're not going to focus on what schools are really for. We're going to focus on our own, you know, the next steps that we want. We're going to have selfish ambitions. We're going to do all of that at the cost of the lives and the futures of these children.
Beautiful, beautiful. David, what's your final thoughts, brother?
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a number of different ways of looking at this particular issue. You know, the lens of a parent that is trying to find a good, high quality school that is safe for their child is you know, no doubt the most important perspective. And so, you know, that should be the kind of dynamic that school districts are working around to ensure that they are providing this particular type of public service, right? Some of the challenges that come into that, you know, like, well, the school's been there, you know, and its test scores are bad, enrollment's bad, there's probably violence, and like, why isn't this changing? We know how to do these things, right? We know how to how to create good quality schools. That's that the evidence is out there. It's proven. However, you start to move either up or down the chain of command, however you want to orient yourself. And school districts are large, massive bureaucracies, right? And they have administrative staff and leadership and superintendents that probably have the right talent. Like I have no doubt that the people working in central office and OUSD have the mind power and the smarts and the intelligence to get the job done. However, you have a superintendent that is working under the whim of an elected school board. And so now you have this other level of an elected school board that is, continuously changing because every 2 years is an election. People are always moving in and out. A lot of these people use local school boards as a stepping stone to city council or to a county or to some other kind of seat. And the initiatives are the direction is continuously changing. And so this is like the churn of the school board that Reed Hastings talked about years ago, and he got lambasted for it at the time. And I was like, well, that actually makes sense. There might be something structurally wrong with how we set up our school boards and our school districts because of that political element of people that really aren't there for the betterment of education for children. They're there as a stepping stone or to whatever else they're there for. They're not in it for the right reason. So I think there's a lot of room in between. I'm a parent, I'm looking for a good school for my kid, and then this political hackery that keeps good superintendents from actually doing the work that they are capable of doing. So I think we have to look at it from A to Z. Yeah, I'm with, I think, several of you. I think, Jubilee talked about it earlier. Why don't they have a plan? Like they might have a plan, but the plan keeps changing because the school board keeps changing. And we're seeing that right now happen in Oakland Unified School District, a reverse of an initiative that was set in stone, more than a year ago. And now the superintendent has to implement it and blah, blah, blah. I think it's going to get better for kids. No, they're not. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, Omar, you still with us? I want to give you your final thought, but if we ain't got you, I'll keep it pushing.
Oh, I didn't realize I didn't realize that the video was going in and out. My apologies. I've been here the whole time, man. I just realized that the phone had things going in and out. I will fix that for next time. So, I can't agree more with everybody on the subject, which is like to culminate David's idea, Jubilee's idea, and the doc's idea is that when you're trying to deal with this monster that Jubilee was talking about, you've got to get to the root issue of what this scenario is, which is that are the people who are supposed to be looking out for the better interests of children doing so? Now, look, I can have a school board member talk all kinds of nonsense to me about that's not our job. When you're on the school board, governance and fiscal solvency are our most important components. And I'm like, yes, governance and fiscal solvency are the most important things a board can do with the end result of how does it positively impact kids. And the fact that you forgot that, shame on you. The fact that you got elected under the premise of helping children and then decided to forego that when you got elected, shame on you. The fact that you consistently think that this is all about you instead of what you're doing to benefit others, dude, go to hell. Like, seriously, why the hell did you get elected when you have forgotten the most important component of being a public servant? You are serving others. That is your job. That is your role. You are a public servant. I am a public servant. My job is to serve this community and serve others. That does not go unnoticed any day of the week. And it's like Doc said, we got here on our own. We got to fix these things. I wonder if the South Star Classroom can start coming up with some very interesting solutions to start fixing these things and maybe helping people organize themselves, because Jubilee's right. When you're working with a low-income community, they are scrambling for survival. It's the last thing that they're thinking about. So we should be part of that entourage of those folks that are assisting in order to help a community out and seek the power that they need. And, you know, it goes without saying, of course, the South Star Classroom has that expertise. We got it. We know how to organize. Shit. I know how to organize from the master of organizing, Professor Marshall Gans, man. So you need help organizing in the community, we'll come help you out.
Listen, man, I'll just say this. One, I loved everybody's closing statements. Just to put even a little bit more color on what David was saying, let me explain to you how school boards tend to work, okay? It tends to be an introductory political position that can lead all the way up to mayors and state houses and things like that. Oakland has a few mayors that started out as school board members. So that's one. And how do you make a splash as a politician? It's not by coming in and just following what the plan was and making sure things run and smoothly. You have to make a splash. You need to make a splash in your cycle. And what that means is that while there are a million ways to skin a cat, I'm gonna be very honest with you and tell you a secret. I think that a plan that the school choice people got can work. I also think that maybe a plan that the union people got can work. But guess what? We will never know because we have never ran any of these plans with fidelity and to its end to see what happens. So when I tell you that you are on your own, when I tell you that while schools should be about kids, what you need to know is that school districts tend to be a top financial center for cities. In many cities, it is a top 3 job provider, if not number 1. I think the only thing larger in Oakland is Kaiser, it's the hospital. You have to understand what people's bread is buttered. You do not take food from a dog when it is about to eat. You will get your hand bit off. And a lot of people have seen this. These are not full things that people want to talk about. These are not the decisions and conversations that people want to have. But if I care about you, I want you to be in the know. So what I'm telling you is if you have an amazing school and your kids are getting what they need and your kids are proficient and they are treated well and they are the whole child being seen that way, God bless you. You are blessed. You are so truly blessed. But if you are in the majority of Black children in Oakland, and the majority of brown children in Oakland, the majority of poor children in Oakland, and any of these other cities, it is not fair. What I'm telling you is not fair. I'm not having a fair conversation. I'm having a survival conversation that can one day turn into thriving for those kids and their children. You got to be on these people's asses. And you got to know what your kids need. And you have to know and not blindly put your faith in a system that has never served you well in mass. It has never happened. It's never happened. So what kind of fool would I be to feel like this is the year? This is the time. School board's going to school board, man. District's going district. Capitalism is going capital. Everything is going to happen. You are the only person responsible for your child. You, nobody else. It would be nice if that were the case, but I don't want happy fools. What I'm telling you is not nice. It's not fun. And for all you amazing educators on either side of this issue, God bless you. And I'm so thankful and grateful for you. I honestly am. But it ain't about you right now. It ain't about us. If I got a kid in that system, I'm a bulldog on peanut butter right now. And that's all I got to say. You have been listening to another episode of South Star Classroom. That's Jubilee. That's Omar. That's David. I am Charles. And we will see you all again. Same bat time, same bat station. In the meantime, you take care of yourself. You take care of your kids and take care of your neighbors. And if we actually do that well, it starts to matter less what these systems do. Y'all have a good one. Peace.